Hey there. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Hot Mud. You know, he isn't the first artist to make an album about going to rehab, but he might be the first one to actually make an album while in rehab. The Ottawa indie pop rocker who goes by the name of Muddy Waters, two T's, recorded his debut album, the fittingly titled Rehab Rock, while staying at a treatment facility in his hometown. Now, after turning his life around, he's enjoying the so-called pink cloud of fresh sobriety. And in keeping with his new confessional approach to songwriting, he just released his optimistic sophomore album, Pink Cloud Pop. Shortly before the LP arrived, he zoomed in to talk about his bluesy handle, his Beckish songs, his Warholian look, and much, much more. Enjoy.
How you doing?
I'm good today. I'm good today. How are you doing? You're having a great year.
Oh, yeah, it's going great. Thanks. Yeah, no, things are going fantastic. Just chilling here in my pink cloud, broadcasting from the pink cloud here. Yeah, making songs, doing well. Excited about the new record, so yeah, can't complain.
I would think not. I mean, you've had one of the most, I have to say, interesting, compelling stories that I've come across this year in music in terms of the fact that, what you've gone through personally to get to the point of making these albums and then, making these albums that reflect all that. I mean, when you were, you know, sitting in rehab, how many years ago now? 3 or 4 years ago? Was
Yeah.
that, was this something that you imagined, a place you would be at now, or something you even wanted to aim toward at the time, or were you even thinking about stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be making music, and I made music before I was
Sure.
even in rehab. So that was a part of my life for the beginning, or before rehab. I mean, I fell off the whole musical creative thing for a few years before that. And through getting back on track, my healing process was a big part of it, was falling back in love with music and the creation of music. I always loved music, but getting back into the creation of music. Um, but I mean, for a while, I didn't really know what I was doing, where I was going. I knew I loved to make music, and I had been writing songs even while I was,
Hmm.
going through all that stuff. So being able to finally get, you know, sober, focused, and able to, do things again properly, normally, it was just, yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. I was ready to just jump into it and start making songs that I had been thinking about and been writing a bunch now too. So, um, yeah, I would say I would imagined it to be like this. I mean, you hope that it'd always be like that, and I hope I'll always have music in my life.
Yeah. Well, because for people who don't remember, and I mean, I confess I had to look it up. I mean, you had the band, the Waters Brothers band, and various
Right.
sort of permutations with your brother going back into the late noughts, right, and the early 2010s.
Exactly.
And so what happened there in terms of chicken and egg, and I mean, did the band break up because of your personal situation, or did you sort of go off the rails because the band broke up?
Yeah. Well, I think it was I think I just lost focus there for a while. Yeah, I don't think the band ever I guess the band broke up in the sense that we didn't make music anymore. I mean, my brother and I are very, very close, Danny Waters, and we still see each other often and
Right.
um
How
but
come you got the cool name and he got Danny?
well, I got a bunch of siblings, and yeah, I'm the one that ended up with Muddy. You'll have to ask the old man about that. I'm not
But
too
that's not
sure.
really the name on your birth certificate, is it?
Yeah, it's Muddy Waters is on there. I have Matthew Charles is the full name.
Well, there
Muddy
you
Matthew
go.
Charles Waters. When I
Uh-huh.
write in my songs for registering them, when I put Muddy Waters, it was a huge complex problem there. I was like, oh yeah, of course, there's Muddy Waters that's got these songs. So I had to throw in Muddy Matthew Waters in there just to And the
Okay.
teas are actually two teas in water. So there's a bit
Yeah,
of
yeah, you know.
a bit of a difference, but
Still, it's a heck of a name to walk around with.
yeah.
I'm
Some say
guessing
I
it
was
causes problems.
well, yeah, I think it's good because it people remember you and bad because people remember you. But I mean it can be good if you're want somebody to, recall who you are because not a lot of people with that name, right? So
Right. So anyway, you had the band breaks up, and then are you
yeah.
just kind of adrift for a while? Did you do some solo stuff, or what's
No,
kind of is in those years in the wilderness, you know?
exactly. Those are just years of me. Well, we kind of we were getting pretty good. I mean, we just fooling around doing lots of projects and but again, I just kind of got the lifestyle of we might not have been rock stars, but we were sure living like them for a while there and it just got the best of me and I just kind of fell off the creative routine. Like nothing really was coming out of me. I mean, I was writing
Hmm.
songs in my head. Half of them were, probably just crap, but I just didn't have the know-how to get them done or record them anymore. And
Right.
my brother Danny, we had lived together for most of our lives up to this point, and then he met a woman and they moved in together and that kind of thing. So we didn't have that same home anymore where it was like wake up,
Right.
just make music, that kind of stuff. So that kind of changed obviously, and I was just on my own kind of for a while, just causing all kinds of trouble and really just kind of lost my way for many years. And it wasn't until I got into rehab that I realized I can probably get back into making music again. And that happened simultaneously with me working on radio programs. I do radio work too.
Right.
And what the real kind of kick in the butt was when I was doing a radio program of my own, I was interviewing a lot of Canadian musicians that I really, admire in that. And I'd always ask them at the end of their interview, like, what is it that, any famous last words, I like to call it, any kind of words of inspiration. And I'd always say, just do it. Do the thing that you really want to do. Be creative. If
Right.
you really have something like that, just go for it. And I'd sort of always, in the back of my mind was wanting to, really put my music out. So after hearing that over and over again, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and, put some stuff out again. And I had been creating some things before that, but just talking to those people was kind of the kick in the butt to be like, "Oh, okay, let's try and put some stuff out there and have some fun with it."
Well, and yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I think one of the things I love about your album is that it is obviously very personal. You're writing about being in rehab and how you ended up there and going through this whole process. Um, but at the same time, you have a sense of humor. Like it is not, somebody who hasn't heard the music and is listening to us talk about it might think, wow, that sounds incredibly depressing. But these are not sad songs. They are not depressing songs. They are very upbeat, melodically and rhythmically. They're enjoyable. They remind me a lot of Beck or the Eels, given the tone of your voice, especially. Um, when you found yourself going, okay, I want to start making music again. Were these songs that just sort of came out of you naturally, or did you have to sort of sit down and go, what do I want to write about? Well, this is what's happening to me, so I'm going to dive into that.
Hmm. Yeah, I. But the first record I made, it was called the Rehab Rock, and that
Yeah.
one was written. Some of the songs were written before I even made it into rehab, like songs like
Mm.
"Where the Bad Kids Go." That was kind of floating in my head while I was kind of walking around the city causing trouble, and um, so half of that record was written while I was in my dark days, and the other half was during my recovery process while I was in rehab. And so it's kind of cool because you can kind of hear that
Yeah.
process and
Yeah,
as it
as it moves
unfolds.
along.
And it was a neat project for me that I was able to do that because when I got into rehab, I wanted to go back into school. I needed to get myself back to whatever, some sort of
Mhm.
shape of a human, civilized human. So I was studying radio broadcasting, and then boom, the pandemic hit and school was on hold. And I was like, okay, I've got a month or two to make this album that I've been writing. And I've been up to that point was writing those songs. So pretty much everything had been written. And I was able to just, uh, you know, hole up in my little room, the size of your mother's closet, as they say, and just kind of had to relearn how to record music and stuff. Because you had mentioned my brother Danny Waters. He was in my previous projects was more the technical guy. He would
Mm.
usually do the recording. So that was kind of it was a lot of me learning what the hell I was doing, making a lot of bad choices, but I somehow pieced it together the record pretty well. And uh, so just having that whole learning process of recording myself, but I really wanted that in my room. That was the whole idea. I wanted to make it in rehab because it was, the whole shtick of it, I guess, just having this record made in a rehab room,
Right.
kind of just to encapsulate that experience and making these videos in that room and just sort of documenting whatever that was. And I was very nervous about the thing because I was, like you said, was very personal, a lot of personal stuff there. And I wasn't
Yeah.
really necessarily, obviously, nobody's really proud of being
Well, yeah,
an
but
addict or a drunk,
but you, so
but
yeah, but that's the thing. You could have just written an album of songs about anything in the world,
mhm,
but you chose to write these songs about, this process and this journey, and I would think that that would be difficult. So, why, I guess, is the obvious question. Why go that route instead of what I think for a lot of people would, and especially you, you've got you've got experience, you've written a ton of songs before. So why go into this deeply hard, very personal, you know, uh, touching, probing your wounds and touching your scabs and kind of thing, instead of, just writing about whatever,
mhm,
cars and girls and rock and roll,
right, right. Yeah, I guess it just was again helped. I guess it was a part of the healing process for me. It was,
Yeah.
therapeutic in a sense. And it was on my mind. That was what was coming to me that just
Hmm.
felt right. And like, writing songs about girls and cars at that point just did not feel good to me. It just felt
Hmm.
fake. And um I mean, I'm getting into a place more where I can do that kind of stuff now and feel good about
Yeah.
it. But, at the time, it just no, I had to be very real, and it was what came out. I mean, I feel like it could have a bit darker of a record, that one. But yes, definitely,
Yeah.
some songs like Birthday and Rehab, and some fun stuff there and some fun up tempo beats. And so
Definitely.
that
Yeah.
was
I mean, yeah, they are enjoyable songs. But you sat on it for quite a while, right? As I understand, you made the album, and then, it's not like you rushed to release it or to have somebody release it. What was that about? Were you kind of unsure if it was something that other
mhm.
people wanted to hear or should hear? Was there a point where you kind of were, maybe this is just for me, or what was your thought process on that?
Yeah, I when I went and did it, I went pretty hard at it, and I went ahead and made videos for it, made the image of Hot Mud, with the weird glasses and the wigs and everything, and kind of made the videos. So I had a whole package there, and with the intention of, yeah, putting it out. But again, yeah, just whoa, is this too personal? I was still kind of going through stuff, still healing, and I wasn't quite confident yet enough, I guess, because
Hmm.
not quite sober enough and confident in whatever. Yeah, that was me, but I'm okay now. I got through that now, and
Right.
hey, look at this. This is a record of achievement, and it's inspiring. But at the time, I was still kind of healing, so I wasn't quite ready to put it out quite yet. And just things got in the way too. I had to get a job. I had to get an apartment. I had to get out
Right.
of rehab. I couldn't stay there forever. I had to figure
Right.
out what the hell I was going to do with my life. So that was a big part of it. And that radio show I was talking to you about kind of took over my free time. I wanted to get into the radio broadcasting world as a day job and this and that. So there was a lot of work put in that just to get, some a career started. And in my free time, that radio show kind of came hand in hand. So that was my creative outlet. And in doing that, kind of put my hot mud stuff on the side for like a year or so. before I finally said, okay, enough's enough. I'm gonna take some time and put this stuff out.
I guess having some distance from it too
Hmm.
probably helped, right? Emotionally and you know, I mean, I know that I'm sure you've had the same thing as a creative person that you write something in the moment and you think, well, I don't know, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, and then you leave it sit for weeks or months or even years, and then you come back to it and you go, oh, that's actually pretty good. You know, you
Hmm.
kind of forget all the flaws that
Right.
you see in stuff immediately, right?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough as an artist when you're working on something over and over again. You tend to get a little
Yeah,
bored of
myopic
the
about it.
work
Yeah, yeah,
and you'd only listen to it with critical ears. What's wrong with it? Where are the mistakes? What do I need to do to make it sound cool? That you kind of it's hard to separate yourself from the listener and the artist. So,
right.
but yeah, I knew the songs were cool. I knew they were special. I liked them, and sometimes they sound better than other times. It depends what
Sure.
kind of a mood you are in when you listen to any kind of music, right? Sometimes the
Right.
record really hits, and sometimes it's okay. But I'm happy that I made that one. I think it was a good introduction to it because when I started writing this new Pink Cow Pop record, which was pretty much right away, uh,
Mm.
I knew I wanted it to be more upbeat and more
Hmm.
a little accessible because I knew that Rehab Rock was definitely a limited audience in the sense that I mean, because of subject matter and the
Right.
tones of the album and but I knew there's a bit more to be told in that story, so I wanted to continue a bit with the themes, but also with other things that were going on with me. Like there's a few songs about that kind of whole radio thing and being an outcast and
Mm.
just kind of looking at the world now that I've been a bit more sober. And so I wanted it to be a partner and a sequel to the rehab thing. And but I knew that I just kind of wanted to make it more upbeat, more happy, a bit more positive. And I think I might have went a bit over top with the kind of the cheesiness and everything, but it
No,
came
I
out
think
pretty
that,
sweet, pretty good.
yeah, it works, and all those things that you say, mission accomplished. I find it's a great a companion, a great sequel to the work. It moves it forward. You know, musically, I think it's evolved. It feels a little more fully realized. Like some of the songs on Rehab Rock feel kind of rougher around the edges, whereas this one feels a little more polished, but in a good way. It's also sort of Rehab Rock was a little more introspective, and while this one certainly still has a lot of personal stuff to it, there's more outward looking to me on this. It's a little more involving the rest of the world and humanity, and it's existential at times, and then sometimes it's just about rock and roll and radio.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, well done. So I would also imagine that these songs are far more satisfying to write in the end than, as you said, songs about, cars and girls and trivial matters.
Hmm. Yeah, I think yeah, for the artist to do something that means something to you, something that you've been through, that really touches you on a personal level. Obviously, you're going to have more care towards it. You're going to feel something towards it, as opposed to yeah, like a bubblegum kind of pop song about going to the bar or whatever. I
Right.
mean, that could work too in my case, but there is, yeah, of course, as an artist, if you there's something that you truly feel passionate about that you can put out there, then that's you're gonna feel that.
Have you
Um,
found the floodgates kind of open songwriting wise now lately again? Are things coming faster and easier and like
mhm.
the old days more?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely in writing mode right now. So all kinds of ideas floating, and I'm trying to lean towards more of that carefree attitude. Like I don't want to beat the, you know, the horse dead to the ground here with this whole kind of idea of this rehab thing. I
Right.
want to evolve as the musical world goes, and just as me as a person too. I still want to have that connection with the songs I write, and where I'm at as a human and what I'm feeling. And also just tunes that are just good stories, maybe try and get myself completely out of the equation, not have the hot mud character there, just have, a whole story going on. I've always admired that, but like, as I was saying earlier, it just wasn't something that I could not do because of what I was going through as a
Right.
writer, that these were going to be personal songs. That's something that's coming, and I'm looking forward to it. I got some great plans for what's going to happen next, but in the
Well, tell
meantime,
me. Share.
well, okay, well, in the meantime, we're putting this record out, and I got a
Uh-huh.
bunch of videos
Yeah.
coming up with that. So nowadays, with the whole visual content and things, it could keep you pretty distracted from recording new songs. But I've been writing a
Hmm.
lot, and that's the plan. So I'm hoping to take a bit of time after this, and by the beginning of next year, or I'll just start putting songs. And I don't want to say too much, but I think it'll be more song by song, and it won't be a full record right away. But it'll lead up to a record. It seems to be the way most our independent
Right.
artists who are starting out are putting things
More of
out.
a consistent stream
Yeah,
of things coming out.
no,
Let's
I
talk
prefer
about
the
your.
album thing, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, sure, you're old enough to prefer the album thing, yeah.
Right.
Um, let's talk about the way you actually sit and write and record music. I mean, how does this process work for you? Do you start on guitar or on a keyboard? Do you start with a drum beat? Are
Mhm.
you somebody who needs to wait for inspiration to strike, or can you just sit down and turn on the tap? Take me in sort of inside the process that you use.
Okay. Yeah, it usually just kind of comes out of nowhere, and I'll grab my phone, kind of hum it down, and then a lyric will try. Okay, well, I've got this melody. I need to come up with some kind of hook, even if it's not the hook at the end, but just some vocal hook that will help me realize the melody and remember it. And a lot of it's just guitar. I'll grab a guitar, kind of quickly get the solid foundation of it quickly, and then kind of store it away. And over while I'm walking around, kind of piece lyrics together as I go. And this kind of goes for about, 10 or 12 songs in my head all at once, kind of piecing bits by bits. And
Mm,
once once I'm like, okay, now I have some time to actually sit down and finish these songs, which will usually be where if I find time to schedule and be like, okay, all the things that I plan to do up to this point is accomplished. I can sit down and really hammer out like the structure of it all. And then I start piecing it together bit by bit, track by track on my computer here, and just, start with drum samples. That's something that I use right now. I just use a simple drum samples and try and find a beat from that, and then build it up, track by track, layer by layer. And it's can be tough doing it that way because you're not really, you're hoping it'll work out that way because I haven't any of these songs I've never jammed out with anybody. It's all been
right.
just pieced together. So I don't have that band to play with to hear it before
That's got
I
to be
record it.
drastically different to the way you're used to doing things, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good at the point where I can realize that I
Yeah.
have a good idea what it's going to sound like, even though I don't have it there with me. But um, I miss that. I think that'll be something, once the fan base builds up and the word gets out there and there's a bit of a demand, I'd love to put a band together and start performing these out there live. But as of right now, the project's just sort of getting going. So I'm
Right.
just going to take this time to concentrate on making, a good catalog here. And
Well, you
um,
could go out and play the tapes, right?
mhm.
Have you? Would you?
No, I don't
Does
know.
that not
Maybe.
appeal to you going up there by yourself just with the guitar and, hit and play and going along with it or
No, no, I don't think that would be something I would do. I've had the past done some live performances, so I've experienced that. I'm in no rush to experience that if it's not kind of the way I want it to be realized.
Hmm,
I've had my chance of time, playing in bars and to great audiences
sure.
and to no audiences, and so I'm not really too enthusiastic about trying to build a live show and playing to two or three people. I know usually that's what it takes when you're starting out, but I'd rather just, do a few shows here and there, and, just set it up so it's a kind of a nice event and hopefully,
Right.
with a decent crowd. But so I'm not in no rush to get the whole live show going, and I'd like to do it with a big band, with to have the songs realized as they are on the
Right.
record.
Yeah, I have to compliment you on the not only on the songwriting and everything with the albums, but also the production. These are really good sounding albums for things that are recorded, home recordings essentially. You add all these touches and flourishes, little instrumental touches, great use of the sonic landscape. Is that something that's sort of come out of you studying radio and sonics and audio and things like that, or is that just what you hear in your head from
Mhm.
a lifetime of loving music?
Yeah, a bit of both for sure.
Yeah.
This new record, Pink Cloud Pop, especially, I kind of went a bit overboard. I got a little MIDI keyboard and just kind of fooled around. There was that kind of EP in between these albums called the Electric Gutter Club, which is me
Hmm.
basically taking some of those songs that from the Rehab Rock and just reworking them with a bunch of synths and sound effects. And um, that was just trying to fool around with that whole MIDI world. And so I took a bit of that with that rock and roll backbone and kind of combined the two in this Pink Cloud Pop record. And yeah, I wanted to incorporate some of this stuff that I've been doing with radio too, like these weird effects and um, that kind of radio vibe, because radio production is what I do as a day job, and so that's a big part of my life right now too. And I wanted to incorporate that. I love radio, and I love that old school vibe of radio. And I know so many, I had to fight myself not to make it like a radio record, like so many bands have done, like you're blah, 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 listening to Hot Mud and do, do,
Oh
do, here's the
yeah, yeah,
next song.
no,
It was
no.
hard for me not to do that because I really wanted to, but I
Yeah,
resisted the urge. Um,
good
but
call.
yeah, but that's kind of what I wanted to do, but I been done
Yeah,
too many times. But
well, exactly.
but so that's all incorporated that, and like you had mentioned, Beck. Like I loved Beck's record Odelay, and I loved how he had always had those really just
Yeah.
sounds that really didn't need to be there, but were there, and well, it kind of sounded cool. So and
Mhm.
Odelay record was a big inspiration for me on this album, to have that kind of that fun, weird sonics and that upbeat kind of tempos and
Yeah, you
um
do a great job with it because and also it doesn't feel gratuitous. You know what I mean? Like it's
mhm,
not just, oh, here's a wacky sound for the sake of having a wacky sound. Like everything works in the context of the song. It's just again, you've heard a million bands home demos, and most of them are, two guitars, bass drums, maybe a keyboard. But you've got all kinds of interesting, this is very much for me anyway. I find it very much a headphones album or an earbuds album, not in some sort of cosmic Pink Floyd way, but just that there's a lot of
mhm,
stuff going on that you want to hear, that you catch little bits of ear candy. So,
mhm.
congratulations on that. I mean, if this singer-songwriter thing doesn't work out, I think you could honestly go and produce people.
Oh, cool.
You've got the skills.
Mhm.
Um, so the reaction though, the singer-songwriter thing does seem to be working out. I mean, I know it's still early days, but I have not seen any reaction to the either album that has not been like really, really strongly enthusiastic. People really seem to like this universally. That's got to be I mean, it's got to be validating, and I would think just a big relief in terms of, like we were talking about, unlike just making some random album of random songs, you've really dug deep on these albums and put yourself way out there. And to
Mhm.
have people go, "Oh, wow, this is really something special." That's got to be like a big kind of sigh of relief for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice to, of course, it's nice that it reaches people in a good way. People are like it because yeah, you're putting it out there. You want to have a good response because those good critiques help equal out the bad critiques, or but it has been very positive, and
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that people are interested, and and it's reaching people. I hope it really connects with some people that might be going through the same crap that I went through, like it was definitely written for me, but I know that there are people out there like me and um, so
Have you
I
heard
mean,
anything from people like that? I mean, have you gotten any kind of communications from emails or texts from people going,
mhm.
you kind of helped me with this?
Yeah, I've had connections with people that'll write me and just be like, hey, I'm in rehab, I'm a musician too, and there's always that brotherhood of, you know, even while I was through that whole housing facilities and stuff, these guys were brothers instantly, and a lot of them didn't even know I was hiding the whole fact that I was making music. That I wasn't didn't really seem kind of cool. It was a pretty tough crowd, and I wasn't. They knew I was making music, and I got them to help me with a lot of my radio projects and stuff that I did in school, but I didn't quite let on that I was, wearing wigs and dressing up and stuff, making videos in my room or anything. And I didn't tell, I don't think I told any of the counselors that I was doing it. And I still have yet to really mention it to any of those people.
Hmm.
So I don't, that whole small community, I'm still a bit, I guess, a little bit nervous about it because, I mean, it put me there, but also, I mentioned the place that I've been to, and so there's that um, association to that house specifically that I went to in Ottawa, and they've always been so supportive and so fantastic that I'm sure they love it, and I do keep in touch with them, but rarely about the whole music thing. It's more so just
Sure.
real life kind of stuff. But yeah, there's people out there that have loved it, and I mean, majority of the audience has been, mostly just people that haven't quite been through what I've been through, but
Sure.
I'm happy that reaches them too. That's even cooler that they can
Right.
see that from an outside perspective and not be like, oh, okay, whatever, it's another sob story about some weird drunk guy, but they can get past that and like and
Yeah,
just
but
take
but
it
it's
for
not. Yeah,
music.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's interesting though that you raise that because I don't think again, I've listened to most of the stuff you did with your brothers, and the various permutations you had of that band, and very good stuff. And I can hear, the sort of roots of what you're doing now in there. It's not like you haven't completely altered your musical style that much. But the content of those songs is pretty much a lot of party oriented, rock and
Mhm.
roll, solid stuff. Do you feel a little bit of I don't know, a higher calling, a higher purpose with this stuff, or is that maybe taking it a bit too far?
Yeah, I don't want to be. I come
Yeah,
from a personal spot. I don't want to try and be some sort of champion of any kind of sobriety movement or
right.
anything like that. And I think that was a big reason why I was a bit hesitant to put it out too, because I didn't want it to be a huge conversation. I knew I was going to have this conversation of all this stuff, but I didn't want it to be take away too much from the music and
Right.
also take away from that subject as well. I
Mhm.
wanted it just to kind of be just a regular rock and roll dude writing what he's going through, like, and
Right.
it just so happened to be what that was, I mean, there's lots of rock and roll songs about people's personal traumatic experiences or turmoil or just whatever. That was kind of what I
Right. You
was
don't want
going
to be
through.
the soundtrack for anything. I
Hmm.
mean, I guess in some ways you probably look forward to the time a couple of years from now when these early albums are sort of just a footnote, right? And you're just
Hmm.
talking about whatever's going on at that period in time.
I feel like that's kind of what I'm going for now,
Yeah. You feel kind
because
of outside, like you've kind of getting outside of that I don't know, rehab zone in terms of it being the essence of the
right.
music. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, it's good that I put those out and I'm glad I did, but I mean I got to grow as a person and as an artist and I got to if I keep dwelling on these things then I'm not going to be able to move and change and become
Right.
a better person, a better songwriter, better at whatever it may be, just a new path and a new journey. And
Right.
so so far as songwriting goes, I mean, I still sometimes will find myself writing kind of those same ideas. They'll always kind of sneak up here and there, and there'll probably be a few more songs of that kind of topic throughout whatever comes next, but more so broader general ideas. I'm
I
hoping.
get you. So the whole image thing, I mean the sunglasses, the wigs, it's very Andy Warhol. first
Right.
of all. Does that is that I mean, you talk about who's it? Oscar Wilde, who said, I think, if you give a man a mask, he will tell you the truth. Is that
Yeah.
does that make it easier as an artist to sort of have this, I don't know,
Yeah.
facade, barrier, buffer, you know?
Is exactly what it was. I
Yeah.
when putting that songs and putting an image to those songs, I was kind of embarrassed in a sense that I had what I had been through. So for some reason, somehow, that made it easier for me to make videos. I knew I had to do a visual thing and I had to present it. And I just was still very nervous about putting my face out there with that music. And I somehow, so somehow, just this silly little, just this was enough for me to feel confident in it. And it came
Mhm.
from my
Yes.
broken tooth. So I kind of started piecing it together. I was like, okay, well, we'll put some broken shades on. And at the time, I had a black wig, and I just said, okay, everything will be kind of black and white, and it'll just be black. And that kind of just sort of that image seemed to kind of work in my head. And I'm like, okay, let's just go with it. Shot a bunch of videos with it, and then oh man, here I am, kind of stuck with the whole thing now. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll evolve with it over time. And so the pink hair with the pink cloud pop, and we'll see where it takes me. I've got some ideas to evolve eventually, but it's fun because you can kind of dress up, and it does help as a bit of a, even just when I'm just got to suit up and make videos or content, and then I kind of get a uniform on, I got a little costume, and I kind of step into
Right.
a different character, and it's like, okay, it's go time. I can act myself just a little more exaggerated.
Right. Was that the same back when you had the band before, or is this kind of more the case? I mean, any performer, there's a certain level of, you know, amping up, right, to go on
Right.
stage. But this seems like the kind of the first time you've taken it to this sort of level, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I guess it just because of the subject matter, for some reason I had to hide behind some sort of silly silly thing. And well, lo and behold, here we are now, and we're gonna roll with it for a while, see see how it goes. But I sometimes look at it, I'm like, oh man, it's kind of foolish, but at the same time, it's good that it's kind of foolish, so I don't take myself way too seriously and try
Yeah.
and be so cool and get too caught up in images and all that nonsense that it goes with the whole music industry now, you know?
Right, right. So is it better the second time around in terms of, having this fresh start, the songs you're writing now, the career you're having now, as opposed to the one you had before and which kind of frittered away?
I I guess so. I feel it feels good now. I mean, at the time when we were doing it, at first it was great because it was especially that Waters Brothers band was more of the first kind of time we really tried to put out a band. We had been making music, my brother and I, Danny Waters, for our entire life.
Right.
But the Waters Brothers record, we really tried to, get gigs and all that kind of stuff and try and
Yeah.
play
You guys
shows
did like
around. And
3 albums, right?
yeah, we made
Yeah.
CDs at home, same kind of deal. And
Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah,
had a
we
whole thing going on. Yeah.
So there was a lot of firsts with that, like our first shows, our first time we heard a song on the radio, our first CD, like that whole thing is, that's awesome, to experience something for the first time when you're an artist to get those. So that I don't have, any longer, but I still get excited about it. Like it's fun to hear the song for the first time on the radio still, or and put out an own record of your own. Here, there it is done, and um, I feel like my songwriting is getting better. I feel like I'm a bit more confident in what I'm doing. I mean, I will. I'm hoping that it won't just be me for the rest of my career. I'll hope to get a crew together, a band together, and see what happens there. But in the meantime, it's just what I needed to sort of get myself back on the ground and feel happy about living day to day. And
Right. And
so,
you're older and wiser too about, it's good that you had all those sort of firsts and did that whole thing as a younger man because
mm,
again, you've been through it all. You know what it's like to do these things. Now you're, like, as I said, older, wiser, not necessarily as naive as you would have been as a
mm,
young man, not necessarily going to make the same mistakes you did as a young man. It's kind
mm,
of better to have this occurring, I would think, now at this point in your life as opposed to
mm.
some other time.
Yeah, yeah, all the, yeah, well, every good thing I've done, every success I've done, every mistake I've done has kind of just led me right to where I am now. And it feels good what I'm doing. And I'm happy what we've done. When we did the Waters Brothers, I really had no clue of how to market it or anything like that. That was never,
Right.
it was more just, let's just play songs and, have a after party, and, let's do that and play a gig. And it was all just more, just kind of fun, and just, like you saying, being young and wild. And now
Yeah.
I'm making music for me first, just to keep busy, to be happy, and but also, yeah, trying to see what the possibilities are for just getting it out there and seeing people's response to it, and hopefully building a fan base and success that's decent enough to maybe even get some income out of the whole thing eventually. And
Yes,
you
but you're
know
also older and wiser about that now too.
yeah, so there's all these kind of things that I'm trying out,
Yeah.
for the first time. Like
Yeah.
that was something I never really tried. We had some successes with other people for, helping us out with that in the past, but as of right now, it's just kind of me sort of starting it out, figuring out how I'm going to take it as far as marketing goes and songwriting. Again, just me, but I'm having a blast doing it, and I'm really excited to what's to come. And as this album comes out, Pink Cloud Pop, at the time, I really had a blast making it, and now I'm excited for what people think, like I think that is a step up from the record Rehab Rock. I mean, both mean a lot to me, but I definitely think that it's an improvement, and I think a step towards what will be more coming from me, more of a pop record, but I still want to do some experiments too. So I want to make sure not to be too conscientious of writing the perfect pop song, but also just writing some wild experimental thing too. Like I want to keep a balance between the two going forward, and maybe write one that's really polished and one that's just wild and weird just because I like the way it sounds.
Well, I like the sound of that, and I look forward to hearing them all. Listen, I've taken up enough of your time today. I will let you go. I guess I should ask you for famous last words.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Daryl, so much. I appreciate the interest. You've shown some support to this project right from the start, and it means an awful lot. And to anybody watching this, keep cool, keep on creating, and long live the weird.
Exactly. Long live the weird, and long live the muddy waters.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll see you somewhere down the road.
Sounds great. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.